All right, everybody, it's me, Gregory Mannarino. It is Sunday, March 15th, 2020. As you can probably already tell, I am not happy. We got so much information over this weekend. I think we're going to get a very clear picture, or at least I hope you do, after watching this video blog. Let me explain this to you very carefully. On Friday, this is just too much, really. On live TV, Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin said that the markets can expect unlimited liquidity. Unlimited. Now, what does that mean? It means that, it literally means this. Capitalism and freedom died. Capitalism and freedom died on Friday the 13th. So that date shouldn't surprise you. Sure, the stock market put on 2,000.7% while President Trump was speaking about what he was going to do or whatever with regard to the coronavirus. That's unprecedented and it's uncalled for. And let me show you this. I don't know how many of you pay attention to this. This is kind of an interesting thing. Weekend Wall Street. I don't know if you can see this here. I don't think you can. I want you to check this out for yourself. Go to Google, your search engine, and put in Weekend Wall Street. Can you see that? There you go. It's pointing towards an almost 900-point loss on the Dow Jones Industrial Average tomorrow morning. And this can change. This can change. Now, why is that significant? Friday, the markets get a promise of unlimited liquidity from Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin. We also found out yesterday, this has been spoken about. I told you before it happened that it would. We the people are going to be responsible for bailing out entire industries. The president made it very clear yesterday that we are going to be bailing out, and you can't call it a bailout, and I'll talk about that in a second, just like you can't call it QE. You, me, the American people are going to be bailing out the airline industry, the cruise line industry, and let me explain this to you in case you don't know. Multiple industries are lining up now for their government bailout. And let me let you in on a secret. They're going to get it. They're going to get it. What is it called when a government, which is supposed to be of the people, by the people, for the people, is forced to bail out entire industries? I want you to think about that. Let me put another perspective on this. The last meltdown in 2008, we bailed out the banks. Now in 2020, we are bailing out entire industries. Entire industries. I have gone on public record saying this, very similar to what we're seeing now on not just Greg Hunter's show, on many shows. I said in 2008 we bailed out the banks, and in the future we were going to be bailing out the country, the United States of America. And it looks like the world is getting a bailout from their central banks. And again, this is the mechanism I have explained to all of you since forever. Since forever. The single goal of world central banks collectively, which are owned by the same entities. These are private institutions running the entire show. They have one goal since the inception of central banking: to own it all, to make the people, you and me, the borrowers, well, they become the lenders and buyers of last resort. This is, people, their final solution. And this coronavirus, like I said to you, gives them a glaring green light to finish it. And we have world leaders, all of them now calling on their central banks to continue to issue more debt. bailouts across the spectrum. Again, people, this is insane. Why are more people not up in arms? I'll tell you why. Because they're afraid. They've been made deliberately afraid of this coronavirus. They're petrified. Look at the shelves in the stores near your house. You think people are able to think of what's really going on here? This is so ugly. This is so hideous. And let's go on further. We got calls again from the President of the United States for negative rates. Negative rates, which means you will be forced to pay your bank. Your bank will legally siphon cash out of your accounts if you keep your cash in them. And what do? When you put your cash in these institutions, they lend it out and they charge interest, but you will have to pay your bank. How does any sitting president or any world leader believe that it's a good idea to have the citizens backdoor bail out the banks again? That's what this is. You've got to be kidding me. I ran a poll on Twitter, and about 21% of the people polled said it was a good idea to have the banks siphon money out of their own accounts. This is how insane the world we are living in has gotten, and it's about to get much, much worse. So let's put a perspective on this. I showed you this. Let's see if you can get a focus on it again. Almost a 900-point drop in the Dow Jones Industrial Average as of now, and this can change. It may get much worse, could get better. But we have a promise of unlimited liquidity. Unlimited. Steve Mnuchin's own words, and he's not making this up. He knows what's about to happen. So calls for unlimited liquidities, industry-wide bailouts. Industry-wide bailouts are coming. We already have, President Trump has already promised airlines and cruise lines bailouts. The shale industry is getting a bailout. This is what the president said. Any industry, any business, corporation that was hurt by this virus is going to get a bailout. Really? When do we, the people, get to vote on these bailouts here? When are you getting your bailout? Are you wondering? You're not getting anything. You understand? What are they going to do? Maybe they'll throw you some crumbs here or there. Maybe. I doubt it. It's getting sucked right out of your skull. So, unlimited liquidity promises by the Treasury Secretary. Bailout promises industry-wide by the President of the United States. Talks about negative rates and a Federal Reserve that is going to provide unlimited funds to buy assets. And the market is still poised for a 900-point drop at the open? You think this is good? Look, let me explain this to you. The Fed repo has gone up tenfold since it started, from 50 billion, at least 50 billion a day, to at least 500 billion per day. We have surpassed anything that anyone, I believe, would have ever imagined. If you compare this to what happened during the last meltdown with quantitative easing 1, quantitative easing 2, Operation Twist, the Federal Reserve just promised its first installment, $1.5 trillion buying assets. Do you remember how the country went crazy for the $750 billion TARP bailout? This first installment eclipses that. And it's just the first installment. Now, going back to the repo, we went up tenfold. They can print all they want. They can add digits to a screen all they want. The fact that we've seen just the repo go up tenfold is proof positive that no matter what they do, they can't print enough money to bail out what's going on right now. It can't happen. Even if the Federal Reserve, instead of doing 1.5 trillion to buy assets, this is what they're going to be doing. If they increase that by 10, it won't be enough. I did an entire video on Friday talking about how they're running out of cash. They're running out of cash. We are marching straight into a liquidity crisis. A liquidity crisis, a credit freeze. Markets freeze. We're done. They are using this coronavirus as a crutch, as an excuse to flood the world with more debt than anyone could possibly imagine. Than you can possibly imagine. Look at what they're doing to cryptocurrencies. Look at what they're doing to gold and silver. Again, we've seen this before. In 2008, when this thing started to melt down, gold and silver got hammered, and then they went up. I honestly believe the same thing is going to happen here with these non-government issued modes of transaction. So I don't care what they do to gold. I don't care what they do to silver. I don't care what they're doing or what is happening to cryptocurrencies right now. You want to still be in the Federal Reserve note understanding that you haven't seen anything yet with regard to how much they're going to inflate, and they can't inflate enough. They cannot inflate enough. Let me put this another perspective on this for you. The U.S. 10-year yield remains below 1%. The Federal Reserve is promising to buy the entire yield curve with their 1.5%, which they've been doing. They want us to believe that they haven't been doing this. They're buying the entire yield curve. This is how they keep rates suppressed. The Fed is not magical. They can't just say, hey, we're going to keep rates suppressed. No, they have to add digits to a screen, create capital out of thin air, and buy the debt. So when the Fed is saying they're going to buy assets, we're going to stop buying assets. No, quantitative easing never stopped since 2008. They've been doing it since 2008, but now it's in your face again, but you can't call it quantitative easing. Just like Steve Mnuchin came out defending the president's bailouts, saying, oh no, these are not bailouts. How is this not bailouts if the government, you, are giving unlimited funds to bail out industries? Explain this to me, because I don't see it. I said yesterday on a tweet, would you rather listen to Steve Mnuchin's lies or coat your testicles in peanut butter and feed them to a Tasmanian devil? I choose the latter, okay? The lies here are getting beyond, just like I said would happen. I said the lies and the propaganda was going to get worse. Well, it is. I mean, everything I have explained to you is happening. Now, again, we have a 10-year yield below 1%. We have calls from the president for negative rates, meaning you will pay your banks to keep your cash in them. 21% of the people polled believe this is a good idea. Do you believe it's a good idea? Or do you think it's theft? I think it's theft on an epic scale. Because just imagine, American citizens who have their cash in a financial institution are going to have their cash legally stolen out of their account. All of us! This is happening in other parts of the world. You want to talk about grand theft? This is grand theft on an unimaginable scale. Now, going back to what I was trying to get out before, I keep getting distracted. So we have a 10-year yield below 1% at this particular time. How is dropping the yield curve further, negative rates? They're referring to the federal funds rate. Let's clear that first. The federal funds rate is going to below zero. There is no doubt about it. But what I want to know is, how do they expect, no matter what they're doing now, and no matter how much cash they pump into this market, to make any difference? All it's going to do is exacerbate the problem. The problem is debt, but again, they're going to issue more debt in unbelievable amounts in an attempt to, I'm assuming, keep the stock market propped up through the election. And again, this is a disaster area for American citizens. American citizens, and especially those in the middle class and the lower tiers, you have a target on your face. You have a target on your face, and you cannot get it off no matter what you try to do. Again, on Friday the 13th, 2020, capitalism died and freedom died. We are clearly moving into some other realm here, way beyond socialism, way beyond communism here. There's something else going on. The markets and industry are being nationalized. It's being taken over by a kleptocracy. And that should scare you more than any virus, because you have no idea what's coming down the pike. None whatsoever. And again, I want you to keep this in mind before I let you go. Despite the promises of unlimited capital for this market, despite the promise of industry-wide bailouts, despite the calls for negative rates, and the president is playing good cop, bad cop again with the Federal Reserve. If it were not for the Federal Reserve, and the president knows this is why he is lying to, if you're a Trump supporter, and again, it doesn't matter to me who sits behind the Resolute desk, and it would not change under a Democrat, okay? They're all criminal organizations. It's one party. The president, again, is playing good cop, bad cop with the Fed. If it were not for the Federal Reserve doing what they're doing, President Trump's market, which is completely fake and has no bearing on reality, would be cut in less than half right now. The president knows it's the Federal Reserve that's been supporting his market. And the fact that he's playing on people again with this charade, oh, I'm going to get rid of the Fed, Powell, because he's not doing enough. We need more debt. We need to cut rates into the negative. Meanwhile, he hasn't explained yet how this is going to help you, the American people. It's total and utter destruction. And the man must literally work for Satan. I know a lot of people are going to freak out. But how is this good for America? He's working for the central banks, and it's not just him. All of these world leaders, again, must be Satan worshipers to the highest order, sucking the skulls of their citizens to flood the world with more debt, to allow their central banks to own it all. To own it all. It's incredible. Absolutely incredible what we are seeing. This is unprecedented. And we are watching some kind of, it's happening right before your eyes, some kind of a shift from a capitalistic free society here in America to some new thing. Notice the word thing, because on Friday the 13th, capitalism died and your freedoms are being stolen right from under your nose. And you know what you're mostly going to do about it? Nothing. And do you know why? Because you can't. It's over. Like I told you, welcome to the new world order. Unbelievable people. Love you all. Please share the video. I'm so out of here.